Hi guys, I want to talk a little bit about social anxiety and the way that I managed to overcome it. So, I'd like to start with my early childhood and the worst period of my social anxiety because I was a kid and I didn't understand how to handle it much, nor did I understand what social anxiety is, etc. So, when I was a kid in primary school, I was bullied a lot, and this is probably the worst kind of social anxiety that you can experience. Just not being afraid from communicating with others, but being afraid of not being beaten up or mocked by others, and the process just repeats itself and it becomes worse and worse. So in the end of primary school, in the summer vacation, I had my first 3 pints of beer, and then my story with alcohol began. And this is the first time I actually experienced unease in social communication, and I should explain the reason I started drinking. Even though it was an unconscious process, it was mainly to avoid bullying, to be brave enough to stand against the bullies and not be bullied myself. And voila, it worked, because alcohol gives you a lot of adrenaline and you kind of stand up for yourself. And still, I wasn't drinking at school, of course, it was too early for me, but the given times that I was drinking outside just made me learn this kind of behavior, that I should be defending myself, defending my own boundaries, and that I should be assertive. And in a year or two, when it became an addiction, actually, the reason it became an addiction is that I saw it was so easy for me to actually communicate with other people that I would just prefer to loosen up, to get rid of the barriers. And this is how I actually started making friends, and I started making a lot of friends, to be honest. Like, I was friends with maybe, I don't know, 10 people from the neighborhood. And then when I went to secondary school, I was kind of friends with everybody in the class. I mean, in friendly relationship, and they were kind of looking towards me as being brave and assertive. And later, when I moved to high school, there were like 500 kids there. My year was about 150 kids. So you can imagine I was making acquaintances left and right, and I was actually making friends with some of those people. And at one point I was going out with companies like 20 people, boys and girls, doesn't matter. We were cracking jokes, drinking beers. We started smoking joints at the same time, and all of this was loosening me up. So let's get to the point that I actually quit drinking. This was my first realization that I actually have tremendous social anxiety, because as soon as I stopped drinking, I actually stopped hanging around with 90% or even 95% of the people that I used to. And I didn't want to call them, I didn't want to see them, I avoided them. When I would see them on the street, I would just pass on the other side of the street. I was avoiding the places where we would gather, just everything. I was avoidant in all kind of scenarios. And then I realized something. Well, what have I learned from all these years of drinking? I learned hundreds and hundreds of times how to approach people. And it still stresses me out. It still creates a lot of anxiety, but I just know how to do it. So little by little, I started doing it, and it worked. I mean, the anxiety doesn't disappear unless you actually do the thing you're meant to do. Go speak to that person. Go ask the weird question or whatever. And because autistic people, we're not inclined to do small talk, just go and do the big talk. Talk about things that interest you. Ask the other person what drives them, what their special interests are. And you're going to be amazed, because there are also a lot of intelligent neurotypical people that are going to be very interested in you if you're honest and if you're passionate about something. That's what people are genuinely looking for. So this is the lesson I understood from alcohol. And even though I disliked that I was drinking so many years, I was drinking for 18 years of my life, at least I can take that. I learned how to approach people and how to overcome my social anxiety. And I'm socially anxious even now, shooting the video and shooting every single video, but I know I have to do it. If I don't do it, the anxiety doesn't go away. And now let's talk a bit about the chemistry of why that is so. So anxiety is predominantly a dopamine issue. And because, as I've talked about, GABA is a mediator neurotransmitter for dopamine, for serotonin, and other neurotransmitters in the brain. So acting as a mediator, it kind of cools down the dopaminergic response. So what is anxiety actually? Anxiety is overthinking different scenarios. So if I'm gonna approach this person, how is he gonna react? Is my question gonna sound too weird for them? Are they gonna cut me off? Are they gonna offend me? If they do that, how am I gonna react? Am I going to get into a meltdown, a shutdown? Is this gonna last for days? How am I gonna go over that? Etc. etc. The mind just creates scenario after scenario, and if you don't do it, it just keeps repeating these scenarios in every new situation like that, in every similar situation, I should say. And the person becomes more socially anxious, and they avoid communication more and more. So how is GABA included here? Well, GABA is trying to suppress these violent dopaminergic reactions. So over time, it gets wasted and you become less calm, and this creates even more anxiety. So it's a vicious cycle. And the only way, wait, a person is passing by. So the only way to overcome it is to actually go and do the thing. This is not only for communicating with somebody, but actually taking an action that makes you anxious in the first place. So just go and do it, and afterwards you're gonna feel a surge of dopamine, which is gonna make you feel happier. It's gonna make you feel more motivated, and your GABA is going to relax, so you're gonna feel more relaxed. You're gonna feel the accomplishment. That's where the dopamine surge is gonna come from. And plus, you're gonna reinforce the process. So the more that you do it, the more you're gonna end up doing it, and you're gonna learn, because this behavior can be learned. Unlike sensory issues, where it's actually very hard to command your nervous system, this is something you can learn, and you can teach yourself only by doing it. So, what are the main takes from that? The main take shouldn't be drink alcohol to learn it. Definitely not. It's just my experience with it, and the thing that I kind of extrapolated from my experiences of socializing when I was drinking. So just go out of your boundaries, go and make this conversation, and try to see what comes out of it. You're gonna make friends, and believe it or not, every person doesn't matter if they're autistic or if they're neurotypical, or if they're ADHD. We all need friends. We all need connection. There are autistic people who are very extroverted. That's actually a misconception that autistic people are introverted. I myself am pretty introverted, but I have my extroverted sides. And as I said, everybody needs connection. And the only way to have connection is to actually approach people. They're not gonna know you want to connect with them unless you approach them. And one thing I wanted to say, when they typically ask old people what they feel sorry for, they usually feel sorry for the things they haven't done. And they don't feel sorry for the mistakes they have made. So go out in the world, do honest mistakes, and people are gonna love you for that. The right people are gonna accept you for that. So that's my take on social anxiety, guys. It's not easy to overcome, but you can overcome it. So just go out in the world, go and socialize with people. That's it, guys. Take care, and may peace be with you.